So, The Tomb of the Cybermen was a second Doctor story that first broadcast in 4 parts between the 2nd to the 23rd of September 1967. This was the first story of Doctor Who's 5th season, and the 8th story for the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton. And having watched it through, this might be my favourite Troughton story, at least out of the ones I've seen so far. I mean, with the ones I've seen so far, the War Games, I felt was okay, but was possibly a little overly long. I mean, 10 parts is quite a long time. Go 250 minutes. So it was rather a long time to watch for that particular story. And the invasion, while it does have some good elements, it does take a while to get there. But that's just my personal opinion. But the Tomb of the Cybermen, I feel, it's shorter compared to the others. It's not 10 parts, it's not 8, it's only 4 parts. But I feel it does a very good job with what it's given. So the Doctor, played here by Patrick Troughton, and his companion Jamie McCrimmon, played by Fraser Hines, have taken in a new companion, Victoria Waterfield, played by Deborah Watling, after the end of their previous adventure, The Evil of the Daleks, which at the moment remains one of the full episodes to actually be missing. They do have it on vinyl, maybe someday they'll reanimate it, I don't know. But yeah, they've taken her on board the TARDIS, so they take her for a first trip and they end up on the planet of Telos. There they discover a group of archaeologists led by Professor Parry, played by Aubrey Richards, who are seemingly trying to find the resting place of the Cybermen who disappeared 5 centuries ago. It's been wondering where they've been, and they finally finance an expedition to come here to Telos to try and find the tomb. However, not all is as it seems, as there are also 2 members of the expedition who are up to no good. A woman named Kaftan, played by Shirley Cooklin, and another man named Eric Klieg, played by George Pastel, and Kaftan's muscle Toberman, played by Roy Stewart. They haven't come here to just find the tomb of the Cybermen. They financed this expedition because they want to use the Cybermen. Back on Earth, Kaftan and Klieg are part of a group known as the Logicians. They've got immense mental abilities, immense brain power, but seemingly no physical power. So they want to find the Cybermen to use them to conquer Earth. Because of course they do. However, they soon discover kind of within the tomb that there is actually a cyber army, and it's not so much a tomb because they have been frozen over. The Cybermen have been kept in suspended animation for the past few centuries. However, Klieg plans to resurrect them and ultimately use their power, only for the Cybermen to be rather reluctant to do so, stating, "No, you will become like us." Now, this story does also have some fairly iconic moments, which is also why I particularly love it. I mean, while The Invasion has the iconic scene of the Cybermen marching down the steps of St. Paul's Cathedral, this one I think had 3 particular scenes that I would regard as iconic for Doctor Who. One is, of course, of them discovering the tomb and then the Cybermen kind of breaking out of their tombs, to which it's clearly kind of bad effects of the time, kind of plastic or cling film that Cybermen are kind of breaking through to get out of their tombs. But it is still iconic just seeing them slowly waking up from suspended animation and breaking through the doors. That's quite iconic to see. Also, the moment towards the end of part 2 when the kind of Cybermen have been resurrected, and then we see the Cyber Controller. And Klieg comes up and said, "I have reanimated you, you will help us," and then the Cyber Controller just grasps him by his hand and forces him down. It's like, "You will become like us." That's fairly iconic. And the other iconic moment, I think, is during part 3, I think it is, when the Doctor and Victoria end up sitting down and having a small kind of chat. She mentions that she does miss her father and she will remember him always, but she admits that might be difficult for the Doctor to understand, given that he's so old he probably doesn't even remember his parents. He's like, well, yes, I can, but I have to really, really want to. And he eventually says to her a line that I think is fairly iconic for Doctor Who of, our lives are different to anybody else's. That's the exciting thing. That they have to kind of move forward. You know what? That's brilliant. This also is, I think, one of the episodes that highlights how much Doctor Who improved over time as they managed to finally understand cliffhangers. One thing that was pointed out to me by one of my family members was that kind of with the older episodes of Doctor Who, it took them a while to fully kind of grasp cliffhangers because sometimes it would just be 25 minutes, oh, suddenly, we gotta stop here, and they're heading down a corridor, and then suddenly they stop and the credits roll. To which they do actually, for each cliffhanger in this particular story, it was done at a moment of tension, i.e., the first appearance of a Cyberman in the shooting gallery, then the Cybermen, well, Cyber Controller being woken up, and then the group being faced down by Klieg. But there is also an element that is kind of very apparent in especially horror movies or stories such as this, where the characters are told don't touch anything, and they end up touching things and things like that. I remember from an old cartoon I used to watch, like, I told you not to touch anything, and I didn't touch anything. I touched everything. to which, yeah, this is also the first appearance in Doctor Who of the Cyber Controller and the Cyber Mats, which would become fairly iconic in their own rights later down the line. While I personally prefer the Cyber Controller that they managed in 2006, this one is also fairly iconic and also rather sinister. The only thing that I would really say the episode kind of slips on and that I'm not entirely sure about is the voice of the Cyber Controller. Now, compared to previous times that the Cybermen have appeared and have appeared since, the Cybermen in this particular story are, for the most part, mostly silent. They still move, but it's mostly the Cyber Controller who speaks for them. And I'm not entirely sure about the voice, because with a previous Cybermen story that I watched, The 10th Planet, that was still mostly kind of a human voice, but kind of slightly higher pitch, and it was still kind of creepy. Like, feelings, I do not understand that word. Like, it was clearly still human. Whereas this was kind of clearly set through a computer. I mean, yeah, you can debate whether future cyber voices they would have down the line would lean more towards the kind of computer voices, more like a machine or more like a human. I'm still hesitant about this. Just, it was a very kind of high, wiry voice. Like, I'm not sure I can recreate it. Just like, you will become like us, like stuff like that. I'm not sure if that voice truly worked. But in all case, that's a nitpick. Out of the stories that I've seen from Patrick Troughton's era, I think so far this one is my favourite. Like, it was shorter than the others, it was sweet, it had an iconic villain, it had some great stuff, and it provided what appeared at first, well, appeared to be going towards kind of a suitable kind of dropping off point for the Cybermen. Just like, okay, we've done the Cyberman story, they can probably be laid to rest for a bit. But I think we all knew that wasn't going to happen. Not with the Cybermen, at least. So, there you go, my thoughts on Tomb of the Cybermen. I'd say it's pretty good, considering it's, well, by this point, over 50 years old. Anyway, the next classic Doctor Who story I'll be hoping to look over is The Robots of Death. Until I get there, see ya.